All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, today we're going to finish off the conspiracy and assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Now, two lessons ago, we talked about the assassination of Lincoln, the whole reasoning, how it was supposed to be a kidnapping and then became an assassination after Lincoln said he felt that some black people should have the right to vote. And this ticked off Booth. And it basically made him go from kidnapping Lincoln to killing him. Then last lesson was about how the plan was to kill not just Lincoln, but the Secretary of State, Vice President, General Grant, things like that, and how it failed. Now, today's lesson is going to be about the final chase for Booth, okay? And you're going to see what happens to him and things like that, okay? Let's see. So here is your warm up picture. Now, here's the thing. If you look at that what the words say on the top. It says, "In this temple, as in the hearts of the people from whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever." So, my question is this to you. Lincoln is very popular. He's on t-shirts with, the sunglasses, things like that. You see him everywhere, but you don't see any other real president. You don't see real like, President Garfield or President McKinley on t-shirts and things like that. But you see Lincoln. So my question to you is this: do you think he would be as popular as he is if he hadn't died? What do you think? Do you think like no, he probably would have been popular, la la la, kept, years after his he died and things like that? Or do you think no, because he died, because of what happened, he's the first president to be assassinated, that catapulted him into, like martyrdom, stardom, whatever you want to use. So what do you think? What do you believe? Okay. So think about it, write your responses, because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So here's the thing. Before Booth went to go assassinate Lincoln, he ran into one of the stagehands. This guy's name was Edmund Spangler, and this guy basically was saw Booth and was like, "Hey, how you doing?" This that, and Booth was like, "Hey, do me a favor, Edmund." He's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Booth. He goes, "Go to the back. That backstage door." He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Take my horse. Can you wait for me right there? I got to do something really quick, and I'm gonna be exiting that door." Okay. So Spangler's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Now remember, Spangler has no idea. This is just a stagehand. This is a guy who sets up the backgrounds and the props, for the plays and stuff like that. So he has no idea what's going on. So he's just in the back holding the horse. And then that's when Booth shoots Lincoln, jumps off the stage, off the balcony onto the stage, and runs out the back door. So the only thing Spangler knows is the door busts open. Booth jumps on his horse and takes off. Now, a little while later, people come out and they're like, "Where'd he go? Where'd he go?" Things like that. And Spangler's like, "Booth, he went that way." And you saw him, and he's like, "Yeah, I was holding his horse." And people then start thinking, "Well, this guy must be part of it." So they start like getting him, and they're like, "This guy is part of the group," and things like that. So this poor guy was basically at first like as seen as one of the conspirators, and he had nothing to do with it. He's just a guy who just was holding the horse, for Booth. And the thing is, like I told people in class, sometimes the lesson of this is you basically got to watch out if you're doing somebody a favor, and making sure that, hey, you're not doing something that might get you in trouble, because of something they're doing. So basically, once Booth got to the horse, he went to the Navy Air Bridge, met Harold, who again left after Powell attacked Secretary of State Seward. He took off, right? So they go to Mary Surratt's house to pick up some weapons and things like that. Then they go to Dr. Mudd's house to fix up Booth's leg. Now, after that, they start going down. They're trying to get away. Now, the area they're looking for, the best place for them is in the southern part of Maryland because there's some swampland there and there's some dense forest. So it's really hard for people to walk through, let alone horses. because again, the mud is pretty thick and it's hard to walk through. So for like 5 days, they're in there. Okay. Now, Booth is like, hey, I want to know what happens. I want to know if, the Southern people, if how happy they are to hear about Lincoln's death. So he tells Harold, people know me, they know my face, they don't know you. Okay, you said you got away before anyone was out there. He's like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, you go into town and uh, get some Southern newspapers. Because remember, it's been about almost a week since he killed Lincoln. So Harold goes into town and finds some Southern newspapers for Booth. Now, Booth is expecting to read in the newspaper, Hero Booth kills, tyrant Lincoln, evil Lincoln, things like that. But instead of being praised as a hero, Booth is actually condemned as a coward. Because you have to remember, back in that day, at that time, to shoot someone in the back was seen as like a punk move. You just didn't do that. If you had a problem with someone, you went face to face with them. You didn't talk about that behind their back. You didn't attack them without them knowing. And the other thing too is he got shot not just in the back, right? But he was at a play, watching a play with his wife next to him. So that was seen as like, yeah, that's cowardly, man. If you really had a gripe with him, you should have went face to face with him. Uh, so the Southern people see him as a coward. They despise what he did. Even though they didn't like Lincoln, it was still seen as like, dude, you shouldn't have done that. That's horrible. That's cowardly. And Booth is furious. He's like, what in the world? Are you kidding me? I did this for them. I killed and I got rid of him. I did something. All they did was complain about Lincoln, how evil he was, and all this stuff about how he's a tyrant. And I did something. I stepped up. So who are they to tell me anything, call me a coward? At least I did something. They didn't do nothing. So he's just lost his mind. Okay. The thing is though, now not only is the northern people looking for him, but the southern people are too. Because again, he's not a hero. He's a tyrant now. He's a coward. So they're looking for him as well. So he has nowhere to go. So they start making their way, trying to find some help, trying to find places to stay, things like that. Um, but thing is, on the morning of April 26th, the northern troops were basically tracking Booth and Harold, and they found them at Garrett's farm in a barn. The thing is, the troops surrounded the barn. Excuse me. And they basically told Booth and Harold, hey, we got you surrounded. Come out. You know, if you don't, we'll burn the barn. Harold wants to quit, but Booth is like, no, no, don't quit. No, no, no. And they're like, we're about to burn it. So Harold pops out, hey, I quit. Again, he realizes there's no point of running. They've been running for so long. The North and South are looking for them. He's like, done. Booth, however, is like, no, I'm not going to be taken down, things like that. So they set fire to the barn, and the smoke is starting to build up inside and stuff like that. And the soldiers are just waiting for Booth to pop out, you know. Um, Now Booth is still inside, even though it's smoking and things like that. He can't really see. But the thing is, there's a soldier who's on the side of the barn, and there's like a little um, whole area in the wood on the frame of the barn. And basically, what Booth that guy does, his name is Thomas H. Corbett. He puts his gun through, takes aim, and shoots Booth right in the neck. And Booth just his body just hits the ground. Now here's the thing: Booth is still alive, except now he's paralyzed. And if you don't know what that word means, it's basically you can't move. Some people are paralyzed from the waist down. Some on the midsection of the body down. Some, just like Booth, from the neck down. Okay. Now the soldiers hear the gunshot, bam, and they don't know that it's not them. So they know, okay, if Booth shot a gun, he has 20 seconds basically to load the gun up, because that's like the average time to load up a gun back then. So they bust through the doors and they realize, oh, you didn't shoot the gun, you got shot. So they get him, they drag him out, and they're like, oh yeah, he's paralyzed. So they're like, okay, well, somebody go get a doctor. And they're like, well, the closest doctor is like like several town away. It's going to take some time to get there. Okay, well, get riding. So some of the soldiers go to get the doctor, and Booth stays alive for about 3 hours. Now, near the end of that 3 hours, Booth asks the soldiers, let me see my hands. Now, the soldiers are realizing, this guy's paralyzed. What's the harm in it? What's he going to do? Bite us? You know? So they lift up his hands, and he just sees his hands just, dangling down. And his last words are useless. Useless. And about 2-3 minutes later, he dies. And that's the end of Booth. Now, this picture you see at the bottom there, that's the trajectory of the bullet, how it went through the neck. So yeah, pretty cool. Now, here's my question to you. When Booth's last words were useless, what do you think he was talking about? Do you think he was talking about his hands or something else? Because you got to remember, this guy had a plan to kill not only Lincoln, but the heads of the Union government. That didn't work. He had grand illusions of grandeur that, oh, I'm gonna be a hero to the Southern people, things like that. That didn't happen. He was a world famous actor, well respected, well paid, and things like that. And now at the end, he's hiding in swamps and hiding in barns and things like that. So again, do you think he was talking about his hands, or do you think he was talking about something else? What do you think? Okay. So write your response. And again, as you notice, there's no writing prompt because I want to see how well you can write a complete sentence. Okay. So with that being said, guys, I know this lesson was very short. I meant it to be this way so you guys can get some of your projects done. Remember, U.S. history, Civil War, battle projects. Remember, you're supposed to pick a battle for the Civil War and get that done. Some of you guys already did it. Some of you guys haven't. So that's why I made this lesson very short. So in class, you had time to do that project. Okay. So, with that being said, you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.